I never planned to destroy anyone. But when you're betrayed by the person you love and robbed blind by the people you trusted the most, revenge doesn't just become an option, it becomes the only way to survive. I wasn't born calculating, and I wasn't raised to be ruthless. But what they did to me changed something deep inside. This is the story of how I was stabbed in the back, not just by my business partner, but by my boyfriend, too. They stole my idea, my future, and each other. And in return, I gave them something they never expected. A kind of revenge that burned their lives to the ground, one secret at a time. It all started 2 years ago, when I was still naive enough to believe that good ideas were all it took to succeed. I had been working as a junior designer at a mid-sized tech firm, putting in endless unpaid overtime, chasing one dream to launch my own user experience platform for mental health tracking. It was sleek, intuitive, and backed by months of testing with over 100 users. The data was strong, the feedback even stronger. I had built something I truly believed could help millions of people battling anxiety, burnout, and emotional exhaustion. I was the sole creator of everything from the concept to the wireframes to the name. But success, I would soon learn, has less to do with your idea and more to do with who you trust to build it with. That's when Natalie came into the picture. She was magnetic, stylish, and had a confidence I envied. We met at a networking event downtown and hit it off instantly. Within weeks, we agreed to co-found the startup together. I had the product. She had the pitch. At first, it felt like the perfect match. We got accepted into a tech incubator in Seattle, worked late into the night on UI flows, marketing strategies, investor decks. She brought in some small funding from her contacts, and things were finally moving. I was exhausted, but exhilarated. Somewhere along the way, Dylan entered our orbit. He was a back-end developer consulting with us on the platform's architecture. He was quiet, observant, but always thoughtful with his words. I liked that. It made me feel seen in a way I hadn't felt in years. After a few long nights debugging and talking about everything from tech trends to childhood fears, we started seeing each other outside of work. It felt real, grounded, honest. At least, that's what I believed. Looking back now, the signs were all there. I just didn't want to see them. The first slap to the face came at an investor pitch meeting. I had spent weeks crafting the deck, writing every slide, rehearsing every word. But when we walked into the room, Natalie took over completely. She used my exact phrases, even personal anecdotes about my own battle with anxiety that I had shared with her in confidence. She delivered the pitch like it was hers from the start, and Dylan just sat there, stone-faced. That night, I confronted her. She brushed it off with a smile and said, "You freeze up in high-pressure rooms. Investors need confidence." And Dylan? He told me not to take it personally and to trust the process. The next betrayal came like a knife to the chest. I returned to the office early one morning to retrieve a file. What I walked in on was Natalie and Dylan in the conference room, kissing, laughing. My body froze before my brain could catch up. They didn't even look surprised. Natalie just smirked and said, "Guess the secret's out." I walked away without saying a word, but something inside me snapped. The next day, I found myself locked out of everything: email, servers, our project management boards. Natalie called it a necessary restructure, and Dylan backed her up. They accused me of breaching company ethics by not disclosing a personal conflict of interest. The startup was no longer mine, but they made one mistake. Before we ever signed our partnership agreement, I had quietly registered a prototype of the app under my namefully documented, time-stamped, and copyrighted. I had user data logs, emails, sketches, even recordings of early brainstorms that proved it was my intellectual property. I could have sued them then and there, maybe even won, but I didn't. Because I knew I could do more than win. I could make them beg for mercy. Revenge, when done right, takes time, and I was done playing nice. I didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't send angry texts or post anything online. I went silent, and that was the most dangerous version of me they could have ever created. While Natalie and Dylan paraded around with my startup like it was their brainchild, I was watching everything from the shadows. I knew them better than they thought. I knew how Natalie always wanted the spotlight, how she craved praise more than profit, and I knew how Dylan hated conflict, how he always avoided confrontation by telling people what they wanted to hear. So I built my plan around their weaknesses. First, I reached out to a former mentor, someone who had watched me develop the earliest versions of the app and had even tested a beta version with his own clients. He was shocked to hear I had been removed. More than shocked, furious. He offered to quietly support my case if I ever needed to go public. But I wasn't ready for that yet. I needed to make them feel safe, comfortable, powerful, because people are only careless when they think they've already won. Meanwhile, I created a new version of the platform. Faster, smarter, with features I had kept to myself, just in case something like this ever happened. I changed the UI completely, rewrote the algorithms, and most importantly, gave it a new name. This wasn't just about reclaiming what was mine. It was about building something better, something they couldn't touch. And then came step 2, baiting them into revealing just how far they'd go. I created a fake email address and posed as a potential investor, someone from a major venture capital firm in New York. I reached out to their startup, expressing interest in a meeting. I used just enough technical jargon to sound legit, asked specific questions about their API integrations, and requested a private demo. They jumped at the opportunity. Natalie replied within hours, attaching a glossy PDF filled with fake metrics, user data inflated beyond belief, and worst of all, a product demo that included features she had no right to use. Features from my original design. She thought I was gone, erased, forgotten. But every lie she told, every stolen idea she presented, was now sitting in my inbox as digital proof. I smiled. The trap was working, but I didn't stop there. I wanted Dylan to know what it felt like to be played. I created another identity, a freelance developer, looking for back-end work on mental health apps. I contacted him through a hiring site I knew he frequented. He agreed to a brief video chat to discuss the project. I altered my voice just enough and used AI video masking to blur my face slightly. During the call, I dropped a few code snip zones that only he and I had worked on late at night during those early development sprints. I watched his face change. He recognized the code, but he couldn't say anything, couldn't ask, because he didn't want to admit it out loud. I was still out there, and I knew everything. The next day, he went dark online. No new commits to GitHub. No Slack messages. Nothing. He was scared. Good. Natalie, on the other hand, was doubling down. She had just posted on LinkedIn about being selected for a Top 20 Female Founders event. Photo shoots, interviews, glamorous behind the scenes. She was riding the high, and that was exactly when I struck. I gathered every file, every email, every piece of stolen work she had ever claimed as her own, and sent a confidential report to the awards committee, the incubator board, and the investors she had pitched to. No drama, just facts. Cold, precise, undeniable. And then I waited. 2 weeks later, she posted a vague apology online about miscommunication in the development process and ownership misunderstandings. But it was too late. The funding she was counting on? Gone. Her profile on the incubator site? Deleted. The press features? Pulled before publication. And Dylan? I heard through a mutual contact that he had left the startup quietly, citing personal reasons. I could have ended it there, but I didn't, because I wasn't done. Not yet. I reached out to a journalist who covered tech ethics scandals. I gave her everything, the emails, the pitch recordings, the fake investor materials. She verified it all and ran a story titled, "The Startup That Stole a Woman's Dream and What She Did Next." It went viral. Thousands of shares. Comments flooded in. Some people defended Natalie, claiming it was just business. But most saw the truth. A woman had been silenced, erased, and then came back with proof and purpose. My inbox exploded. Former colleagues, industry leaders, even angel investors who said they wanted to back meme, not her. And so, I launched the new version of my app under my own name, with my own voice. No co-founders, No diluted vision. Just me. The launch was raw, personal, honest, and it resonated. Within a month, we had over 30,000 active users. Within 6, we closed our first funding round. And Natalie? She disappeared from the startup scene entirely. No more interviews, no more photo shoots, just silence. Dylan? He tried to reach out once, sending a half-hearted apology email filled with excuses. I didn't respond. I just archived it, along with every other reminder of who I used to be before they turned on me. They thought they were destroying me. But all they did was light the match I needed to become something stronger. And when the flames died down, I didn't just survive, I rose. Success looked different now. It didn't come with applause or magazine covers. It came in quiet moments when I read user messages telling me how the app helped them sleep through the night, manage their panic attacks, or reconnect with their families. It came every time someone said, "I didn't know anyone cared enough to build something like this." That's when I realized this was never about revenge. Not really. It started with fury. Yes, but it ended in freedom. I had spent so long wanting to prove something to people who never believed in me, wanting to be seen, respected, loved. But when I finally let go of all that noise and built something from a place of truth, that's when everything changed. Still, there was one loose end. One I couldn't ignore. Months had passed since the exposé. Natalie had gone silent. Dylan had vanished from LinkedIn. And while I had moved on, part of me wanted to know, how far did their lies go? And why did they do it the way they did? I never got answers from Natalie, but I got something else. One day, out of nowhere, I received a letter handwritten messy on hotel stationery. No return address, just my name on the envelope. Inside was a single page. It was from Dylan. He said he was sorry, that he knew what they did was wrong, that he felt like he was drowning the whole time but didn't know how to fight Natalie without losing everything. He claimed she had promised him shares, a promotion, even a place in her future company. She made him believe I was the problem, that I was too emotional, too unpredictable, too risky to build a real business with. He admitted to knowing the code was mine. He remembered every line of it. Every late night we spent working on it. And in his words, I betrayed the only person who ever really saw me. Not for love, not even for money, just because I was afraid to stand up to her. He ended the letter with a strange line. I kept one thing. I don't know if you'll want it, but it's yours. Attached was a flash drive. I scanned it with every virus tool imaginable before opening it. Inside was a folder labeled Blueprint 1.0. It was the original app design I had built with all the annotations, bug notes, and voice memos we recorded together. It was like stepping into a time capsule of who I used to be before everything fell apart. For a moment, I just sat there, listening to one of the old recordings. I could hear myself laughing at a dumb joke Dylan made while we were debugging. We were young, hopeful, building something beautiful. And then came the betrayal. But as I listened, I didn't feel pain. I felt power. I realized I had survived all of it and become better for it. I didn't need that old blueprint anymore. I had outgrown it. But keeping it reminded me of a truth most people never accept. The things that break you can also shape you. And sometimes, the people who hurt you the most are the ones who teach you exactly who you never want to become. A few weeks later, I was invited to speak at a conference this time, as a solo founder. I walked onto the stage, standing under bright lights I once feared, and told my story. Not the sanitized version, the real one. I didn't name names. I didn't need to. The story spoke for itself. And when I finished, the room was silent, then erupted in applause. But what mattered more than the claps was what happened after. One by one, young women came up to me, some in tears, some shaking. All of them saying the same thing. Thank you. I thought I was the only one. That's when I knew. This wasn't just about an app or a betrayal. It was about becoming the kind of woman who doesn't just survive injustice but rises so high above it that the people who tried to bury her can't even see where she went. I built something real. I made them irrelevant. I didn't have to destroy them. They did that to themselves. And me? I'm just getting started.